It is the Sactown Sports Kings recap show here on the YouTube page. Of course, don't forget to give us a thumbs up as we talk about a W tonight. Light the beam. I believe this is my second straight post-game recap where we're bringing home a W and lighting that beam. And let's start with my man FG right here. 30 wins on the season. Let's just start with that fact. You win 140-120 in Houston tonight. And you are now 30-23 on the season. 30 W's. You had 30 wins all of last season. So let's soak that in. Let's absorb that. We know that last night was brutal. It's now in the rearview mirror. Couldn't care less. You're 30-23 on the season. You have matched the win total of last year. And let me see, it's only February 6th. We're still 3 days short of the trade deadline. And we're sitting here talking about a 30-win team. That is a change. That is a huge shift in the energy from last year to this season. And you know what I loved first and foremost? The response. Last night, again, was brutal. I wanted to see how the team would come back and how they would respond, what they would look like. And I saw a different team. I saw a much different team right from the jump. I mean, when you saw the energy, the effort, defensively, they were competitive. They had the juice. Last night, I said this on Twitter at Nick C Radio. They looked like a team that had partied on Bourbon Street Saturday night. I mean, quite frankly, that's the way they looked. Tonight, it was completely different right out of the gates. And I thought De'Aaron Fox really kind of set the tone, not statistically, but with his energy and with his compete, what he was doing out there. And you could tell that the guys were much more comfortable with Foxy out there on the floor than the last couple of games, especially last night. So what you wanted to see, if you're Coach Mike Brown, what you wanted to see was this kind of response. And they responded full throttle. They come back after getting embarrassed last night in New Orleans, and they looked like a team that knew they got embarrassed. They looked like a team that knew their coach called them out in the postgame, justifiably so. They looked like a motivated, energized team that was ready for the challenge in front of them, and that's what you wanted to see. So first of all, the response. The response was there. The guys answered the bell, which is fantastic. Let me see if I can read this name. All gas, no brakes, 30 wins. Finally, after 20 plus years, I'm finally happy as a Kings fan. Be happy. Again, 30-23 on the season, matching their win total of last year on February 6th. The response was exactly what you wanted to see. It was really an overwhelming kind of first half for this team. When you look at it, 65-48 at halftime. They played really good defense in that first half. Everybody from Kevin Huerter to Davion Mitchell to De'Aaron Fox, this was a total team effort defensively in that first half, kept the Rockets to under 50 points by halftime. Let's also mention at the top here, Keegan Murray. Like, to me, the two biggest stories of tonight's game is, number one, the response, how they looked coming out of the gates after what happened last night. And, you know, we always kind of take things for granted watching professional athletes. Let's not forget, these guys jumped on a plane in New Orleans last night. They flew to Houston, and they had to play the very next night. And sometimes that could be awful, right? Sometimes playing a game the very next night after you looked bad the night before can be a recipe for disaster. Instead, it was the exact opposite. And what we saw was a team that wanted to get back on the floor, wanted to play tonight. They looked hungry. They looked energized. They looked, as I said earlier today, they lacked force last night against the Pelicans. They played with tons of force tonight, and they really kind of set the tone in that first quarter, looking like a team that was happy, that was relieved to be out there. Let's talk about Keegan now. I'm upset. I'll tell you why I'm upset. I was fortunate enough to watch Keegan Murray's career high in points until tonight. I had that little feather in the cap. I was actually at Golden One to see his career high in the NBA. And tonight, he now ruins it. Just a memory for me. Keegan was unbelievable. And we talked about Keegan on the show today, Cattles and Rami from 2 to 6 on Sactown Sports. We talked about Keegan today, and I wasn't overly worried or concerned about Keegan because he's young, you know. And yes, the ups and downs of this year have been so dramatic. It's kind of crazy when you look. He started the year absolutely on fire. Then in November, he plummeted and couldn't throw the basketball in the ocean. And then he comes back last month And in December, he was terrific. And in the January last month, he was terrific. And then to start this month off, he couldn't throw the ball in the ocean. He shot 20% from three walking into tonight over his last 5 games. And he just looked like a different guy tonight. And I was listening to Deuce and Mo earlier on the midday before our show on Sactown Sports. And, Deuce was talking about how Keegan last night in the fourth quarter looked hesitant. And Coach Brown obviously played both Keegan and Huerter last night in the fourth quarter of a blowout because he wanted those guys to build back up. He wanted those guys to, feel good going into tonight. And Keegan didn't take a lot of shots last night in the fourth quarter, which was kind of surprising. Tonight, there was no hesitancy. Keegan let it loose, 30-6, a career-high 30 points. He shot 11 of 17 from the field. He has to continue to believe that he can make shots. He has to continue to believe that he is a three-point artist. He has to continue to believe that eventually, if he keeps shooting and shooting and shooting, these shots are going to fall. 11 of 17 from the floor, 8 of 12 from three, a career high in three-pointers tonight for Keegan Murray, 8 of 12 from three-point land. The biggest takeaway for me with Murray tonight, again, was that confidence. Absolute confidence from your rookie. He looked like a different guy. John Williams, they were on a mission to get back their self-respect. I 100% agree. They know they were embarrassed last night. They know what happened last night was inexcusable, and they looked like a team that was motivated to come out and make sure to throw that first punch and punch Houston in the face. And that's absolutely 100% what they did. So Keegan, again, he looked really good taking and making threes. This offense is just completely different when they're making threes. Captain Obvious just walked into the room saying hello. But, this offense is just so different. 21 of 41 tonight from three-point land. That's better than 51%. And when you have the threes falling, it's almost like the rest of the game comes along for these guys, right? When they're knocking shots down, they're feeling confident. It picks up every other aspect of their games. And they were making shots. It's a huge difference. Keegan, 8 of 12. The team, 21 for 41. And when you shoot the lights out like that from three-point land, you can't lose the game. I mean, if you lose a game when you shoot 21 of 41, you have some big issues. And thankfully, that did not happen tonight. I do want to talk about Foxy as Peter brings him up. Foxy is back and back on track. Go Kings. What I thought you saw tonight was a team that felt the level of comfort. They knew who they were, that the pecking order was back to being established. Okay, Domas, Fox, and the rest kind of fall in line. And I also thought Fox brought a playmaking aspect of the offense. I talked about it today. Without Fox, it was glaring. There wasn't enough guys who can make plays, and they weren't comfortable making plays. I thought tonight you saw Fox with his playmaking ability. He had 8 assists. He only had 16 points, but he had 8 dimes. And he was finding teammates for open shots. And I thought, Fox brought urgency and energy early. He helped this team kind of feel comfortable again back on the floor, saying, all right, last night was last night. It's in the rear view. It's on the back burner. We got to focus on tonight. And Fox being back kind of made everybody else feel much better about what they were going to do and what they need to do to get a victory in Houston tonight. We know for a fact that the Rockets are not a good basketball team, but still, you have to come out, you've got to compete, and you've got to play at a higher level than you did last night because, you played a New Orleans team that had lost 10 out of 11 without 3 of their best players, and we know what happened, right? So the level of competition, opposing the Kings tonight, that's not really the biggest thing to me. The biggest thing to me was going out there and competing right from the jump and continuing to put pressure on the opposition, which they did. Go Bravos asks, who gets the DPOG chain? All right, so the next guy I want to talk about is somebody that I criticized today on the show heavily, and he deserved the criticism because last night, Kevin Huerter did absolutely nothing to help this team. He did not make shots. He did not defend. He did not rebound. He did not show any kind of playmaking ability last night in New Orleans. But tonight, Kevin Huerter was different. Tonight, Kevin Huerter, and it's not going to be all in the stats, right? Because people will look and they'll say 16 points. It wasn't that he was draining 8, 9, 10 threes like Keegan did. It was his all-around game. Huerter proved that he can do more when he's not just making every single shot he puts up, right? He had 4 rebounds. He had 4 assists. He was 7 of 12 from the field. All 5 misses were from 3. He was 2 of 7 from three-point land. But what I loved about Kevin Huerter tonight was that he stayed with it on both ends. He did not get off to a super fast start. He didn't come out shooting 4 of 4 from 3, but he stayed with it on both ends, and he competed. He competed defensively. He wasn't a turnstile like he was last night. He tried to stay in front of guys. He had a couple of digs, right, for trying to create some steals. So I thought Huerter defensively, I would give Huerter the defensive player of the game tonight. Just because of, what I saw on that end of the floor after what I saw last night from him. I would imagine that you might see him with the DPOG chain in the post-game locker room with the strobe lights and the party jumping as we continue to light the beam here in Sacramento. Defensively, overall for this team, I thought aside from the third quarter got away from them, and you credit the Rockets. They hit a couple of really tough threes. Jalen Green kind of got going early on, and he was really kind of difficult to stop early on in that third quarter. Third quarter got away from him, a 40-point quarter. Yikes. Yeesh. That's, 40-point quarter against that Rockets team. But you scored 34, so you didn't lose too much of the lead, right? You went into the third quarter up by 17. You go into the fourth quarter still with a double-digit lead because you scored 34 points because your guys were making shots. Keegan caught on fire in the third quarter, right? So you start knocking shots down, and there was some trading of baskets. Defensively, aside from that third quarter, I thought the problem in the third quarter, if you're wondering, I thought they allowed too many guys to touch the paint. Way too many paint touches. And I just don't mean points in the paint, because when we talk about paint touches, it's not just about finishing at the rim. It's getting into the paint, creating shots for other players. And that's what you saw from Houston in that third quarter. They were collapsing the Kings defense. They were getting into the paint. They were getting in through the teeth of that defense, and they were spraying out for open threes. They were attacking at the basket. They end up with 40 points in that third quarter. But aside from that third quarter, I thought defensively, this was one of the better games from the Kings tonight, especially after what happened last night. They gave up 24 and 24 in the first and second quarters. You have that 40-point quarter, which is just ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And, then they hovered around 30 points in the fourth quarter, which, again, you've got a big lead. Guys kind of take their foot off the pedal a little bit. Defensively, I thought they were there. They were engaged. They showed tremendous effort. I thought contesting and closing down the paint, shutting down the drive lanes at times, contesting shots at the rim, contesting passes, busy hands. I thought that defensively, aside from the third quarter, it was a really good effort from the Kings tonight. I thought they stood up on that end of the floor, so great job by them. De'Aaron Fox, again, he brought urgency and energy. He shot 5 of 12 from the field, did not force too much. Congratulations to De'Aaron and his lovely wife with their newborn child, Rain. And yes, I'm going to be corny. The Kings were raining down threes tonight. My God, I'm corny. But hey, celebration of fatherhood for De'Aaron Fox and company. So he comes back. He feels good. He had a little bit of extra juice, and that was much needed. The other guy that I thought really felt, the flow from De'Aaron being back was Domas. Domas finished with 17, 7, and 10. And what you saw with De'Aaron back was better spacing on the floor, right? You had the spacing that you love. You had Fox going downhill. You had Domas at the elbows. You had the other guys beyond three-point land. And you could do the 4-out, 1-in, which the Kings love to run offensively. And you saw Domas feel a little bit more comfortable out there. He wasn't forcing it as much. He wasn't forcing his own offense. He wasn't dribbling into traffic as much tonight. He did it one or two different occasions. But I thought Domas looked like a guy who, looked across and said, oh, thank God De'Aaron's back. Thank God De'Aaron Fox is back. He looked better tonight than he has looked the past couple of nights. Malik Monk, Malik Monk, he can drive you crazy because he will take bad shots every once in a while. He will hunt for his own offense when he shouldn't be hunting for his offense. He will turn the ball over every once in a while. He will forget to defend for like a quarter or two. But when Malik Monk is hot, that dude is so much fun to watch. And that fourth quarter run, when he knocked down 3 straight threes and he was scoring buckets, and he's kind of prancing up and down the floor. That Malik Monk is electrifying. We had electrifying Malik Monk in the fourth quarter tonight. And hopefully that carries over to Wednesday night. And hopefully that carries over to the rest of this first half before we hit the All-Star break. Some other numbers that jumped out. Only 10 turnovers. Fantastic number. They took care of the basketball tonight. How about this? They had 10 turnovers. You know how many assists they had without looking it up? Give me some guesses in the chat. Guess how many assists the Kings had tonight? They scored 140 points. How many assists do you think the Kings had in this game? I'll come back to that number and let you know what they did. Don't cheat. Don't look it up. Look at how many assists. Try to figure out how many assists they had in this game tonight. They were also only -4 in the paint. And it's not because they scored 80 points in the paint or whatever. When you look at it, it was 58-54 in the paint. 58-54 in the paint. And when this team wins the paint battle, they're going to win most of the games. FG with the guess on the assist says 28. Nope, wasn't 28. Let me see. Catman 421. He guesses 41. Catman 421 is getting closer. Go Bravos. Their guess is 45. The Kings had 38 assists tonight. That is a monstrous number. 38 assists, only 10 turnovers. That's sharing the basketball. It's better spacing. And, of course, it's knocking shots down. When you make 21 of 41 threes, that assist number is going to balloon because now your offense is working. You're running off of Domas. Like when you see the Domas low assist numbers at times, it's usually because guys are missing shots. They're not making those shots. So I thought Domas looked more comfortable. The offense overall looked more comfortable with Fox back, which should not be surprising. 10 turnovers, 38 assists, only -4 in the paint. The Kings win 140-120. Again, they improved to 30-23 on the season. They had 30 wins all of last year. They have matched their win total on February 6th. That's amazing stuff. That's amazing work. And yes, this was the kind of game that you wanted to see after last night. You wanted to see a convincing win. Only some slippage in that third quarter. Other than that, this game was in control. Got a little tight in the third because Houston, I mean, look, part of it was the defense by the Kings not being good enough. But Houston also caught fire from three-point land. They were 6 for their first 7 in that third quarter, and some of them were difficult. Gordon hit a couple of threes like 5 feet behind the line. Green hit a really, really tough three. So they made a bunch of threes in that third quarter. Other than that, this game was controlled from beginning to end by the Kings, and that's what you wanted to see. And now it's, can you stack it, right? Can you stack it with another win on Wednesday? Can you back this up tonight with another win on Wednesday night? And if you win on Wednesday, you finish this road trip at 4-3. And before this road trip began, that's what I said. I said precisely 4-3 on this trip. I'd feel good about it. I'd feel good if they can go 4-3. I thought 5-2 was possible. I did not know De'Aaron Fox was going to miss 2 games. If you walk away from this road trip, it's a 7-game, 11-day road trip. If you can walk away from this road trip at 4-3 with De'Aaron, missing in 2 of the 3 losses, hey, man, you feel good. You feel good going back home, and then you've got to play Luka and Kyrie on Friday and Saturday night in a back-to-back against Dallas. But I don't think you can complain going 4-3 on this long road trip if you can win on Wednesday night. If you lose on Wednesday night, 3-4 doesn't feel as good. A 4-3 trip feels pretty good when you were missing Fox for 2 games. And if you're able to do that, you'll be 31-23. You'll be 8 games above 500. And of course, as we know, Thursday is the trading deadline. And I would expect this team to add at the trading deadline. I think they will add at least 1 body, if not a couple of bodies. I think Monte McNair is going to be active at the trading deadline. We've talked about what they need. They need a 3-and-D wing, somebody who can make some shots off the bench and defend with some length, some athleticism. That would be absolutely beautiful. Jared Vanderbilt is a name that I am very, very big on. I think Vanderbilt could help this team tremendously coming off the bench. I think he does a lot of what they need. He can defend at the rim because of his length. He can knock down corner threes. He's just nonstop kind of energy. He competes. I think Jared Vanderbilt would be awesome. There was a report today saying that there was a Western Conference team that had offered at least 2 second-round picks for Vanderbilt already to Utah. I would not be surprised if the Kings were that team. I wouldn't be surprised if they're in conversations with Utah to try to land Vanderbilt, because I think he's a perfect fit for these guys. And you also need a big. You need a big behind Domas. And the question is going to be, do you want a legit 5 guy like Mason Plumlee, who I've been pumping Plumlee's tires for the past several weeks, couple of months. I've been talking about Mason Plumlee going back to when this team played at Charlotte. And, it was just glaring to me when I was watching Plumlee. He does a lot of things that Domas does, not at the level that Domas does them, but he's a very similar kind of player to Domas, right? He's not somebody who's going to stretch it a ton. He's somebody who's going to move the ball at the top of the key, dribble handoffs. He's a very good passer as a big man. He's a better shot blocker than Domas is because he's a better athlete than Domas is. But, the question for Monty is going to be, do you want to go with a big similar to Domas and go out there and get a Mason Plumlee? Or is Monty going to try to almost kill 2 birds with 1 stone and go for a big that can stretch the floor? Because if you can bring in Vanderbilt and then you can go out there and get somebody like a Naz Reid. Now, Naz Reid is somebody who could play alongside Domas. Mo Bamba is somebody who I brought up in the summertime during free agency. I was interested in Mo Bamba because I think he's a really good fit alongside Domas. Maybe Monty wants to bring somebody in who can play some minutes next to Domas, and you're not bringing somebody in like Plumlee who's going to give you 15 minutes a night maybe, but you're bringing somebody in who might give you 20, 25, 28 minutes a night because that person brings more versatility, like a Naz Reid, like a Mo Bamba. There's been some word about Nerlens Noel. He's not a shooter, but he's a very athletic, long, big, who can rebound and block shots. So I think as we get closer to Thursday, that's what we're looking at. We're looking at 3-and-D wing with some length and athleticism. We're looking for a legitimate big, behind Domas, whether that's somebody like Plumlee who can just replace Domas, and when Domas comes back in, Plumlee sits, or it's somebody who can play alongside Domas like you had in Indiana with Miles Turner. You go bring somebody into the program here that can shoot threes and can stretch the floor a little bit, like the Naz Reid, like the Bamba, then you have a little bit more versatile of an offense. But 140-120, a 20-point win for the Kings in Houston. They improved to 30-23 on the season. 30 wins matches last year's total. Just a tremendous turnaround so far for this basketball team. We are 53 games into the season. Man, it is flying by. But we have less than 30 games left to this year. We have 29 games left to this year. I'm playing a little bit hurt tonight, so I'm going to bid adieu. Thanks to everybody who joined us and chatted with us tonight. We appreciate you as always. Don't forget to like us and get more eyeballs to the product. That's what it's all about, growing this channel. 140-120, Sacramento Kings win. Light the beam. 30 wins on the year, matches last year's total. It feels really, really good to walk away with a W. Kings win tonight in Houston.